This is not a theoretical or statistical issue for me. I have personally experienced all the things I am discussing in this chapter, as have many of my female friends and family members. The official statistics, while horrifying, do not show how bad the situation really is. There are approximately 167 million women in the United States, according to official statistics. 1 in 3 women experience sexual contact violence. That is roughly 55 million women who have been sexually assaulted in our current population. Rape is not just a problem in poor and underserved communities. It is estimated that 25% of college women are victims of forced sex, and at least 2/3 are sexually harassed. For a report on the statistics, please go to www.nsvrc.org. That's the National Rape Statistics, where you can find those. The statistics I quote in this chapter are from these reports. With such high numbers, this cannot be a problem caused by a few bad actors. America, and perhaps the world, has a culture of rape. While it is possible that a relatively small percentage of men could create these statistics through repeated rapes, I believe the truth goes to the heart of how men and women are trained to interact with each other. I have seen even quote unquote good men who would never think of themselves as abusers act abusively because neither they nor the women they are with are aware of the boundaries inherent in this basic concept of property rights in one's own body. Sexual coercion and rape. At 22, legally an adult, I finally made a decision to fulfill my dream of going to college by leaving everything I'd ever known: my family, the strict religious organization I'd grown up in, the missionary community in Taiwan where I'd lived for the past year. The people I knew best were against my decision, but they couldn't stop me because legally I was an adult. I finished packing my bags and I look up to see Uncle Jim leaning against the doorframe. Despite being my parents' age, I considered him my one friend in this community of 20 plus volunteer workers. He and I were often a team to pick up supplies or fundraise. He smiles a sad smile and asks if he can take me out to get an ice cream one last time. We get into his van, but on the way to the store, he passes the turnoff. Laughing, I point out the mistake and tell him he's already lost without me. He smiles but doesn't turn around. Instead, he pulls up to a rent-by-the-hour motel. I ask what we're doing here, and he says, I have to check on someone. He explains that there's someone inside who needs help, and he needs to talk to them before heading to the store. Can I join him? I watch as he goes to the front desk for a key, and then I follow him down a bleak gray hallway. The key scrapes in the lock. We walk inside, but there's no one there. I hear the door click behind me, and I ask, what's going on? I need to share his love with you before you leave, he says. I tell him it really isn't necessary and that I don't want to share God's love. But he takes my hand and leads me to the bed. My throat closes on itself. I've been so trained not to refuse and to obey my elders that I don't have the words to object. All I want to do is run, but I don't have a car, a phone, or money. I have no way out. There are no other options I can think of. I'm trapped, neatly and completely. The mattress sinks under my weight, and my feeling of helplessness screams inside me. I'd thought of Uncle Jim as my guardian. This is the ultimate betrayal. He pushes me onto my back and takes off my clothes. I just stare at the ceiling. I try to make my mind blank as I focus all my attention on the tiny LED lights embedded in the ceiling. Are they supposed to represent stars, I wonder? I'll fly away into the stars to escape what is happening to my body. When he finishes, I remain frozen on my back, staring at the ceiling until he calls me to get up. Only one thing is clear, and I focus on it with all my mind. I am never coming back. Later learned that even if someone isn't holding you down, if they're psychologically forcing you to have sex when you don't want to, it's rape. Even if you must pretend to be willing, it's rape. Even if you are frozen and unable to think of a way to escape, it's rape. The sick part was, it wasn't violent. He wanted me to feel good, he said. Yet, wasn't it obvious that I was lying stiff as a mannequin? I hated him, pretending it had anything to do with me or my pleasure. I didn't want to feel any pleasure with him. Rape. He knew I didn't want it. I had said no, but I was trapped by the situation, trapped by my conditioning, by my lifelong training to never refuse or fight an uncle or an elder in this situation. Unable to defend myself or speak up after my first feeble refusal that was ignored. Having to lie there and take it. Even worse, I thought that if I pretend to like it a little, he'd finish quickly, but I just couldn't do it. My only desire was for it to be over as fast as possible. In some twisted excuse, I know he justified it in his mind that he was showing me love. I'm sure he convinced himself that if he could just have sex with me, I would feel that love or enjoyment and want to stay. Yuck. I hate him. I hate him more because I liked him. I trusted him. I thought he was my friend. Men ask why women don't stand up and shout no or fight back harder. For many of us, society conditions us from birth to be submissive, obedient, and pleasing. Do you expect that in the most traumatic, shocking moment of a girl's life, that she will summon an unused skill and shout back, attack? No. As any psychologist will tell you, in times of extreme stress or fear, a human will typically default to their lifelong conditioning. If you are taught to submit in everything else, your default will kick in when faced with a sexual assault as well. When faced with a terrifying situation, the human response to fight, flee, or freeze kicks in without your permission. Habitual training can change your response. Unfortunately, the habitual training and messages given to women in all other areas of our lives to stay quiet, don't upset people, don't call attention to yourself, and you don't know your own mind, does not serve us well when faced with a sexual predator. Sexual coercion and undue pressure. In contract law, a contract or agreement will be invalid and unenforceable if one of the parties applies undue pressure to gain agreement. Blackmail is an example we are all familiar with. If you don't, for instance, if you don't agree to sign over your property or pay me $60,000, I will post these naked pictures of you on the internet. That's an example of blackmail. The fear, the threat, the potential damage to your reputation and career and family all apply undue pressure. When you are making the decision about whether to pay the blackmailer $60,000, the blackmailer is threatening to destroy your personal property, your reputation, and your ability to earn money unless you hand over your other property, money. Your reputation is an intangible property. It is a real thing with a calculable value. You can calculate the value, even though you cannot touch it. If I engage in an activity for fear of punishment if I refuse, then I am not a free, willing participant. I have been coerced through undue pressure. The person coercing me is functionally engaging in blackmail. That is why we have the term in psychology, emotional blackmail. Rape doesn't have to happen at the point of a gun or a knife. If you engage in sex because you believe that the pain you foresee in the act of sex itself, for instance, public humiliation, bullying, ostracization, separation from God if religious, or that you'll be shunned by your community, fired from your job, physical punishment, or deprivation, then you are not engaging in sex of your own free, uncoerced will. Coerced sex is rape. When my law school boyfriend in college explained this to me, it was a revelation. I had blamed myself all those years. I had taken responsibility and felt ashamed for the sexual encounters I'd had that I did not want. Even when we fight back,